whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Whoa. I'm going to tell you what. Man, that was fabulous.
Thank you very much. Beautiful. Thanks again.
Okay, and we will have the invocation by the Honorable Reed Falconer and the Pledge of Allegiance by the Honorable Red Thompson.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, great architect of the universe, giver of all good gifts and graces, we thank you for allowing us to meet here tonight and to enjoy the company of our colleagues, friends, and constituents. We humbly ask that you lead us in all our endeavors and guide us as we work together in service to the residents of St. Tammany Parish. Grant us the wisdom to make the right decisions to the best of our ability, knowledge, and belief, and guide us as we follow them through. We ask your special blessing tonight on the members of our country's armed services, both active and veteran, and that you keep watch over the young men and women in harm's way across the seas as they protect and defend our country. We ask your blessing also tonight over the family of Merritt Tassin, the Chief of Fire District 4, who is facing particularly difficult challenges at this time. We ask that you grant all these things, Lord, and help us to remember that all things come through you. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dean? Here. Mr. Sharp? Here. Mr. Thompson? Here. Mr. Falconer? Here. Mr. Gould? Here. Mr. Tanner? Here. Mr. Bender?
Here.
Mr. Groby? Here. Mr. Canulet? Here. Mr. Belisario? Here. Ms. O'Brien? Here. Mr. Stefanczyk? Here. Mr. Artie? Here. Mr. Smith? Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Our first item on the presentation is a certificate to Coach Ed Kelly, the founder and swim coach for Slidell's Hurricane Swim Club, for his commitment to our youth and community. Ms. Brister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor for me to be able to present this certificate to Coach Kelly's family members, his two daughters, who are here with us tonight, and we thank them. Along with Rick Danielson was here too, who knew him and was a student of the coach. So thank you, Rick, for being here. It is my honor to present the certificate which states, St. Tammany Parish Government hereby commends, honors, and thanks Coach Ed Kelly in recognition of the impact and influence he had on countless St. Tammany children that swam for him and the Hurricane Swim Club over the last 36 years. The lessons he taught went beyond the pool, and for this and many other reasons, he will be greatly missed by the St. Tammany Parish community. In addition to that, he served our country well in 2 wars. So it's fitting that tonight his family is here to accept this award from us, this certificate from us. And thank you very much for your. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. I also have a note here that we have members from Troop 310 with us tonight. Would they stand up, please? Let's hear it for the young men.
Jerry, they're here to complete their communications merit badge.
Wonderful.
It's one of the badges that they have to have if they intend on becoming an Eagle Scout.
Fantastic. That is great. Okay, item 2 on the presentation, certificate to commend and congratulate the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway Bridge as being designated a National Historic Civil Engineering Landmark by the American Society of Civil Engineers. Mr. Falconer.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask that Larry Race and Carlton Dufreshow join me at the podium. We're here to recognize the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway Bridge and the Greater New Orleans Expressway Commission tonight as having been designated a National Historic Engineering Landmark by the American Society of Civil Engineers. The proclamation declares, whereas the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway Bridge will join fewer than 250 other landmarks around the world with such a designation, including the Eiffel Tower, the Panama Canal, and the United States Capitol Building. Pretty good company, I'd say. The Parish of St. Tammany hereby resolves that this council does hereby commend and congratulate the employees of the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway Bridge and the Greater New Orleans Expressway Commission for receiving National Historic Civil Engineering Landmark designation by the American Society of Civil Engineers. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Reed. Council Chair, Mr. Bender, councilmen and women, Parish President Brister, and her staff. I am Larry Rice, and I'm the representative to the Greater New Orleans Expressway Commission, known as the Causeway Commission, at your pleasure. I sit at the pleasure of the council. So for that, I do appreciate it. And I appreciate the confidence you have in me to appoint me, number one, but the commission overall and the great staff led by our general manager, Carlton Dufreshow, right here. The American Society of Civil Engineers has selected Lake Pontchartrain Causeway Bridge as a National Historic Civil Engineering Landmark. Design and construction of the causeway was a major step forward in modern engineering. The use of pre-stressed concrete was a cutting edge in the 50s, but the large-scale application of component modular construction for a bridge was unique and truly innovative. This fresh, novel approach resulted in the causeway being built faster and more cost-effectively than traditional bridge building methods. The original bond issue was $46 million. The bridge was built and finished in 1956 for a total cost of $31 million, and its companion span was completed in 1969, believe it or not, for only $26 million. So it was less than the first one. The causeway directly led to the growth of the North Shore. Today we have 40,000 vehicles that transgress the bridge every day. For 57 years now, the causeway has facilitated traveling, enhanced our regional economy, and our quality of life. The primary goal of the Greater New Orleans Expressway Commission is to make the causeway the safest and most efficient transportation corridor in the region for all of our commuters and motorists. Thank you all for having us here tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Bender, could I make one more comment?
Yes, sir.
It was very nice tonight to meet the Kelly girls right here.
Yeah.
Because their father, back when I was swimming, always had somebody that could beat me. And it was my pleasure to meet them tonight.
There you go. Carlton, did you want to say a few words? I don't want to.
May I add one thing?
Yes, sir.
Thanks to all of you. The reason the Causeway works is not only because I'm surrounded by a staff that's much more talented than me, but got terrific commuters that actually look out for everybody, and also the teamwork we've got, particularly from St. Tammany Parish. One last thing that I was looking at some of the data today. When the first 10 years of the bridge, the average annual traffic count every year was 1 million people, 1 million transits. We do that in 1 month now.
Wow.
That's the kind of change.
So Carlton, tolls are on you for the rest of the year?
I'm sorry, what?
Tolls are on you for the rest of the year?
Northbound, it's free, come on. Thank you.
Okay, council members, we have a request to go to items off the floor. We have 2 presentations by our parish president, so I need a motion to open items off the floor in order to move up item 1 and 2. Motion by Mr. Gould and seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, Ms. Brister?
I'm going to take number 2 first, if it's all right with you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
This is an amazing story, and I think I will ask Councilwoman O'Brien to tell the story about Sean Noel first, and then we would like to present him with a presentation. And Sean, wait, where'd you go? Oh, there. Come on up with us, please. And your parents, too, if they'd like to come.
Oh, yeah, this was fast.
Oh, it's all him. Come on up. What a nice young man.
Well, it's our honor to present this certificate to Sean Noel. Sean has done a great job. He has done something called St. Tammany Remembers, and let me read what she's got here. It's our honor to present this certificate, which states that St. Tammany Parish government hereby commends, honors, and thanks Sean Noel in recognition of his tremendous efforts to honor and recognize our local veterans and service members by creating the St. Tammany Remembers organization and registry website. I might add that Sean has undertaken this initiative at the young age of 12. And we're so impressed to hear of his efforts and understanding, and we hope that you'll join us in congratulating him for his outstanding demonstration of citizenship, patriotism, and leadership. And I know we'll see great things from this young man in the future. And we'd also like to thank his parents, Jim and Missy Noel, for the support they gave to help him and make this become a reality. That is really impressive. I have a strange feeling we're going to hear about this young man multiple times in the future. Congratulations, Sean.
I would just like a moment of your time to say a few things, but I feel like I started this program because I felt like our veterans deserve the utmost respect because their valiance and the service to protect our country shouldn't be forgotten, and they're just the most amazing people I know.
Wow. Impressive young man.
Thank you very much, and good luck in everything you try to accomplish. I know you will. Thank you.
I have a strange feeling Sean's going to be on that side someday soon.
At least.
Absolutely.
Thank you. What a wonderful presentation. I enjoyed doing it, and I have the honor of presenting another. I'd like to ask Council Chairman Jerry Bender, Councilman Steve Stefanczyk, Reed Falconer, and Richie Ortigue to come down and join me for this. I know you all didn't know about this, so I appreciate your coming. These councilmen have also served. I wanted you to be here with me to give these out. So I've asked them to join me at the podium along with Veterans and Military Affairs Council Chairman Willie Bryce and Assistant Chairman Pat Phillips to receive this recognition. I believe Pat is here and Mr. Bryce. Come on down with us. While they're coming down, I'd also ask that the members of the Veterans Council and any other veterans in the audience stand to be recognized. And we have lots here tonight. Thank you for all you do. Not only for your past service to our country, but for your continued care and service to all those who have also served. It is my honor to present this certificate, which states St. Tammany Parish Government hereby commends, honors, and thanks each of you in recognition of your honorable service in the Armed Forces of the United States of America, and to show our sincere appreciation of your sacrifice, courage, and willingness to serve our great nation in the defense of freedom. I'll ask that Mr. Bryce distribute the certificates to his council members, as some were not able to be here tonight, but I especially wanted Mr. Bryce and Mr. Pat Phillips, which is my name, by the way, to be here to have these. So thank you very much, Mr. Bryce. I'm going to give you all these. Oh, these are all in there. Okay? Thank you very much. Guys, yes, would you all kind of come over? Yeah, come on, and Pat, come on over in the center. This is your, there you go. Can you get us all? Thank you very much for everything. I appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Okay, right before we move to the consent calendar, this news went out yesterday from Senator Landrieu's office, and I had a meeting with Ms. Pat, our parish president, today, and she asked if she could say a few words to all of us in the public, and I absolutely, of course, said yes. Ms. Pat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As many of you may have read, we received word yesterday morning that we have been forgiven our Katrina loan, which was over $12 million, plus interest of over $2 million. So it's $14 million that we now do not have to pay for the cleanup efforts after Katrina. We were one of the last to receive our forgiveness, but there are a few others out there that are still waiting, and they will receive them soon. We did get the official letter today, which makes me feel a lot better. You get a call, but I have to thank so many people for this. I have said in the press that Senator Mary Landrieu did a fantastic job getting language in a bill that allowed us to get this forgiveness. We had been denied, and she changed some language that just made it fair for everyone. So we did qualify under that language. But here in the administration, there are several people, but two in particular I want to thank. And you all know her. She gets plenty of credit for a lot of things, but for this, she fought and fought and fought for us, and that's Leslie Long. Leslie, please stand up. Stand up. It also with her was Laura Wren. She couldn't be here tonight, but we certainly want to recognize her today. And before Kim Salter left, she was a big part of this, and Beverly took up where Kim left off in that fight. But I cannot even begin to tell you the number of hours that they have spent, days, nights, weekends, and everything else, worry, as we all did, just to get this right and get it there. So I thank you for all of that work, and I thank all of you for being patient while we went through this, and we are much better off today than we were a day before yesterday. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me have a moment.
Yes, ma'am. And Ms. Pat, someone needs to thank you. So I think all the council members certainly want to express our appreciation for you with some applause. Okay, consent calendar. We have under ordinances for introduction to pull item 1, ordinance calendar number 5097. Going to resolutions, we need to pull item 1, resolution CS number C-3845, and we need to pull item 2, resolution CS number C-3846. I'll just ask across the board, any council members, starting with Mr. Dean, that need to pull any items? Mr. Sharp, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Falconer, Mr. Gould, Mr. Tanner, Mr. Groby, Mr. Canulette, Mr. Jean, Ms. O'Brien, Mr. Stefanczyk, Mr. Artigue, Mr. Smith? None. Okay. Can I have a motion on the consent count? Excuse me. Does anyone in the audience would like to pull anything? Yes, sir?
I'm just curious, have you closed it for items off the floor? Are you taking more items off the floor at this point?
No, sir, not at this point. Yes, sir. Okay, I need a motion on the consent calendar. Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Stefanczyk. Please vote.
I was wondering. With a verbal from Mr. Smith, motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right, under ordinance for introduction, item 1 is ordinance calendar number 5097, ordinance to amend Code of Ordinances relative to roadway testing and inspection standards for residential and commercial subdivisions. Mr. Belisario.
I'm not the one I think had pulled that. I don't remember if I was.
I have your name here as you wish to refer to the Planning Commission.
Right.
Okay, that's correct. Yeah, when we had to discuss it, it has to go to the Planning Commission. Make a motion to refer ordinance for introduction 5097 and send it to the Planning Commission.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Belisario, and I'm sorry, Mr. Smith got it first. Seconded by Mr. Smith. Please vote.
And Mr. Bender, for a point of
Yes, sir.
clarification, if you would, is this an introduction and referral, or referral prior to introduction?
Introduction and referral.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Moving to resolutions. Item 1 is resolution CS number C-3845, resolution to set the salaries of the employees of the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office pursuant to Louisiana House Act 181. I pulled this so that we could make reference specifically to what the council's intention here is pursuant to a majority vote. Once Dr. Galvin had resigned, later that night, myself and our council administrator went and met with 4 of their top people, including Dr. DeFatta. All of these people have done an outstanding job. And we found out that there was really no salary plan structure in place. At that point is when we started floating the idea among council members about integrating our own parish government, a grade system and step system in place, so that employees, team members would understand, if I do a good job, here's what I could expect next year. We found that some people, we were told, had not gotten raises for 2 or 3 years in a row. So that is what we're proposing tonight. What's included is simply a sample of the grade system that we're wanting to put in place. Once the interim coroner is named and some meetings would occur and let the interim coroner and Dr. DeFatta have some input, we can establish exact numbers, but the grading system is what we're voting on. So any comments? Okay. Need a motion? Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Gould. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Item 2 is Resolution CS number C-3846, resolution to acknowledge the resignation of the parish coroner, appoint and set the salary of an interim parish coroner, and call an election for parish coroner. Let me say on the front end that we had a few applicants. They were interviewed by council members, all very, very fine people for stepping forward. The intent tonight will be to first set the salary, which will be paid on a monthly basis, or in the case of a partial month, which would start, for example, in November, on a pro rata basis, all the way up and through the election and swearing in of the permanent full-time coroner. We have received pledges from the applicants that they understand that it is the wish of the council, and we feel from the feedback we've received from the people of St. Tammany Parish, and our parish president, that this person be strictly interim and devote their time to the office as opposed to having to run for election. That election will have qualifying on February 12th, 13th, and 14th, with the election being the first Saturday in April. If there would be a runoff, it would be, I believe, the first Saturday in May. Okay? So I have some lights on. Mr. Gould.
Are we going to set, we're working on setting
Setting
salary now?
Yes, sir.
All right, I would suggest, or I'd like to make a motion that we set the salary equal to what the coroner in Jefferson Parish has.
Okay.
He's part-time, and that's set at $72,000 a year.
All right.
I'll second the motion.
So that's your motion, Mr. Gould?
Yes, sir.
And that would be on a per-month basis in this case.
Correct.
Of $6,000 a month, or prorated, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Belisario. Any questions? Mr. Tanner?
Is this also going to be the salary of the new coroner?
We hope so.
Possibly.
That's the aim.
But right now, we're setting the salary for this interim doctor. Okay? Any other questions? All right, we have a motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Belisario, to set the salary at $72,000 per annum, paid out, obviously, in this case, at $6,000 a month, or a pro rata share of such. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I want to, before we get into the interim coroners, what I want to say to the public, when we interviewed the doctors, one of the things that we all agreed upon is that these individuals have stepped forward to run for this position on an interim basis, but all of them had stated very clear that they wanted to give back to the community and give some stewardship and leadership to the coroner's office until the coroner's elected next year, and I thought that was very commendable on their parts to do that.
Oh. Thank you, Mr. Belisario. All right, the next item would be to actually vote, excuse me, we have to have nominations. So any council member that wishes to nominate one of the applicants can do so now. Mr. Gould.
I'd like to nominate Dr. Pramod Menon.
Okay.
Menon.
Mr. Gould nominates Dr. Menon or Menon, and seconded by Mr. Falconer.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Dr. Adrian Talbot.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Belisario to nominate Dr. Adrian Talbot, seconded by Mr. Groby. Any other nominations? Motion to close the nominations.
Second.
Okay. All right, on the actual vote, we will have our Assistant Council Administrator, Ms. Ashley, pass out sheets for each individual council member to vote on. Obviously, that will be available to the media and the public. And we'll have Mr. Henderson give us the person who has been appointed. We will come back to this when Don lets us know he has the count available. Item 3 is, well, excuse me. Moving on to ordinances for adoption. Item 1 is ordinance calendar number 5008, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 5.0192 acres from HC3 to I1, Ward 8, District 14. Mr. Smith. That's fine. I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. This is ordinances for adoption. Item 1, ordinance calendar number 5008, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 5.0192 acres from HC3 to I1, Ward 8, District 14.
Yeah, thank you for indulgence, Mr. Chairman. We want to move at this time to postpone this ordinance number 5008.
Okay, Mr. Smith, you want to postpone indefinitely?
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely, okay. Motion by Mr. Smith to postpone indefinitely, seconded by Mr. Artigue. Any questions, comments?
Why? Why are we postponing it? Just out of curiosity.
We, along with the planning department, working with the petitioner to come into compliance on some issues that we have observed that have not happened yet since we originally talked about this. And so we're trying to make sure that good faith effort is followed before we move on it.
Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
Well, TJ, this case wasn't appealed, correct?
No, it was not.
So it went
It was a result of another request by the petitioner on another piece of property that adjoins this property, and as a result of that, some revelation was made as to some non-compliance issues that existed, and so we're trying to help him to come into compliance.
did all this just get disclosed after the zoning commission had approved the case?
Say that again?
Did this disclosure come out after the zoning commission had made their decision?
No, during the process.
The issue or issues then didn't come up during the zoning commission meeting, you're saying?
I don't know, Richard.
Okay.
Gene, I wasn't at the zoning commission meeting, but as I appreciate it, the petitioner understands, as well as our department, that there were some issues that existed as a result of his original request that were identified. And as a result of that, we're working together with him to try and correct those non-compliance issues.
Okay, it's kind of unique to me, but okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. So we have a motion by Mr. Smith to postpone indefinitely, seconded by Mr. Artigue. Any other comments, questions? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. I'm going to move back to the vote on interim coroner and the appointment of the interim coroner. And I see that we have Dr. Pramod Menon in the audience. Doctor, you have been appointed interim coroner by the St. Tammany Parish Council. Congratulations, sir. Would you please come forward? All right, so I need a motion now to adopt the resolution with Dr. Pramod Menon's salary and name in the resolution.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Falconer. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Congratulations, Dr. Menon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for doing it for us.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Dr. Menon, we met the other night in the interviews. Please help me here. Is it Pramod?
It's Pramod.
Pramod.
Yes.
Did I get Menon right?
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. Okay.
It's Menon.
Menon.
Correct.
Okay. Dr. Menon?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, and we also thank the other applicants for putting their names forward. I know all of us that had the opportunity to interview you were extremely impressed. Do you have time to stay around a little while tonight?
Certainly.
Okay. What we would like to do, council members, if y'all are in agreement, is proceed with the meeting. I just spoke to Mr. Hand, and after the meeting, Mr. Hand, our chief legal counsel, doctor, will swear you in as interim coroner, and I promise this is not going to be a long meeting.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you to the council.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gary, my only comment is, I've heard that comment before.
Excuse me. Okay, I'm perfectly fine with that. The council would like to swear you in now, Dr. Menon. Excuse me. Jeez. Pramod Menon. I got it.
You won't get a better audience.
Come on up, doctor.
Get him before he runs.
Yeah, who was saying that? Richie? I kind of agree with you. When our attorney talks to me and tells me to do something, I just pretty much do it. Yeah, let's. Don. For the public record. Teresa, I'm going to get you to hold the Bible. I want you to raise your right hand. I. It's on.
I,
Pramod
V.
Menon, solemnly swear
I, Pramod V. Menon, solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of this state,
and the Constitution and laws of this state,
and I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties incumbent on me
as St. Tammany Parish Interim Coroner,
as St. Tammany Parish Interim Coroner,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding,
and understanding.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Get you to sign 3 copies, Doc. Dr. Menon, after you sign, we'd like to just get a few words from you, if you don't mind. And this will be filed with the clerk of court tomorrow morning, so it'll all be official. Might also say while Dr. Menon is signing, excuse me, geez, crickets. Doctor, please feel free to call me Binder. Not you, Robert. It's still Bender. Excellent. Thank you very much. But one thing I think we need to say, and that is this. Dr. DeFatta needs a big thank you. And as Chief Deputy Coroner, while he for personal reasons, did not want to fill this role, he has looked over the well-being of this office for the last 20 days and nights, along with other doctors and a very, very competent staff. And so we definitely owe Dr. DeFatta, the other doctors, and the staff a debt of gratitude for hanging in there through this entire year and for minding the store the last 20 days until we could get Dr. Menon in place. Dr. Menon, it's yours.
Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, President Brister, excuse me, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for this responsibility. I look forward to working very closely with the council, the current staff at the coroner's office. There's some urgent issues that need to be addressed, which we will certainly delineate in the next few days, and hopefully have a timeline for things to be accomplished until the permanent official can be instated. And certainly, I hope to have an open door policy with the parish council, the citizens of the parish, the press, whomever deems it appropriate. We certainly will like to make ourselves available and transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Menon.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 2 on the ordinances for adoption, ordinance calendar number 5081, ordinance adopting the 2014 parish operating budget. Mr. Belisario.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone the adoption of the parish 2014 parish operating budget until the monthly meet on December the 5th.
Okay. Motion to postpone till December meeting, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any questions, comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Pat. Item 3 is ordinance calendar number 5082, ordinance adopting the 2014 through 2018 parish capital improvement budget and program and to further identify fixed assets and grants awards. Mr. Belisario.
Like make a motion to postpone adoption of the 2014 capital budget until our parish council meeting on December 5th, 2013.
Motion to postpone by Mr. Belisario to December meeting, seconded by Mr. Ortiz. Council members, any questions? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Item 4 is ordinance calendar number 5083, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1 acre from A2 to A2 and MHO, Ward 7, District 7. Mr. Groby.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by Mr. Gould. Mr. Gould, yes. Please vote.
Mr. Ortiz? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Item 5 is ordinance calendar number 5084, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 13.244 acres from A1 to A2, Ward 1, District 3. Mr. Thompson. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Dean. Please, any questions, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 6 is ordinance calendar number 5085, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 8,100 square feet from A2 to A2 and MHO, Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Dean. Motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any questions, comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item number 7 is ordinance calendar number 5086, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 4.79 acres from A1 to A1 and MHO, Ward 2, District 3. Mr. Thompson. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Gould. Any comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 8 is ordinance calendar number 5087, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.96 acres from A1 and PUD to A1A, Ward 8, District 9. Mr. Belisario.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Ortiz. Any comments? Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I just was wondering on this particular ordinance, Mr. Belisario, is this going to include the closure of that Red Rooster Road portion?
No.
That was in question,
No.
so that's going to remain open?
That's going to remain open. This is inside the Tammany Farm development itself. It's one lot that's going to be taken from 8.96 acres to 2 separate lots. It has nothing to do with Red Rooster Road itself.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other comments? Okay, please vote.
Mr. Dean? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 9 is ordinance calendar number 5088, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.921 acres from A1A to A1A and MHO, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Mr. Groby, Mr. Canulette. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Item 10 is ordinance calendar number 5089, ordinance to authorize the parish president to purchase or otherwise acquire certain parcels right-of-way and/or servitudes for the St. Tammany Regional Airport Project, Ward 4, District 7. Mr. Groby.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 11 is ordinance calendar number 5090, ordinance to rename Joe's Road R05G008 as O.D. Kane Lane, Ward 5, District 6. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please, any comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 12 is ordinance calendar number 5091, ordinance to correct the road and drainage inventory to include an extension to Oshner Boulevard, Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Dean. Motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Sharp. Any comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 13 is ordinance calendar number 5092, ordinance to amend the 2013 operating budget, amendment number 8. Need a motion? Motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Bellisario. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Mr. Bellisario? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 14 is ordinance calendar number 5093, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on pain management clinics. Need a motion, Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote. Any comments?
Mr. Gould? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 15 is ordinance calendar number 5095, ordinance to amend ordinance CS number 11-2569, adopted July 7, 2011, to approve a location change for 3 polling locations to include precincts C06, C07, and C08. Need a motion? Motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 16 is ordinance calendar number 5096, ordinance amending the official zoning map of St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana, to reclassify 0.42 acres north of Ben Thomas Road, west of US Highway 11, being 37397 Ben Thomas Road, Slidell, from HC2 Highway Commercial District to I2 Industrial District, Ward 9, District 14. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like to, at this point, ask Mr. Shane if he would come up and just enter into the record some information regarding this particular ordinance that would be helpful in everybody's understanding what to get ready to vote on. Mr. Shane, if you will.
Thank you, Councilman Smith, Mr. Bender, Honorable Council. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington. I represent Mr. and Mrs. Katera, who are the owners of this property, the petitioners, and I'm happy to say that the adoption of the ordinance this evening will bring this matter to an end. In connection with the rezoning of this property, my clients had pledged to execute and put into the record a deed restriction which would restrict uses on this property in the future. The terms of that deed restriction have been carefully negotiated, discussed, and agreed to by all parties. I would like to thank the Kateras, of course, Councilman Smith, for putting this deal together. We also had help from Pastor Bacon, Mr. Cook, Mr. Luckett, and also this evening, Mr. Alfred Jones, who's now the director of the North Slidell Homeowners Association. Mr. Jones is with us as well. So with that having been said, consistent with our commitment, I'd like to put this executed deed restriction into the official minutes of your record. Another multiple original will be recorded tomorrow with the clerk of court, and that should complete our obligations in connection with this matter.
Done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Smith?
And with the acceptance of that documented to our record and the conciliatory working out of this particular issue and petition by the parties involved in the neighborhood as well as the petitioner, we would feel comfortable now in going forward and adopting this ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Smith to adopt, seconded by Mr. Bellisario. Any comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Appointments. Item 1, resolution to appoint Don Nix to replace Mark Ayler, resigned to the Board of Commissioners for St. Tammany Parish Sub-Drainage District Number 1 of Gravity Drainage District 3, District 8. Mr. Canulet. Okay, motion by Mr. Canulet to table, seconded by Mr. Bellisario. Any comments? Please vote on the table.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 2 is resolution to appoint Charles Graves to replace Wade Singletary, resigned to the Board of Commissioners for St. Tammany Parish Fire Protection District Number 7, District 6, 7, and 11. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, before we would go into executive session, moving back to items off the floor, I think I still have the items off the floor open. No, I only did it for 1 and 2. All right, so I need a motion to reopen items off the floor by Mr. Ortiz, seconded by Mr. Smith. Please vote.
Mr. Chair?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Bellisario.
Before we vote, we can vote on this, 'cause I'm willing to open up the agenda, but I would want to discuss the continuance of these motions. I've asked a while back, we need to form a work group between the council and the planning department to come up with criteria that we all agree upon on these motions, rather than just keep sending things on motions through, because I believe the only revenue we get from these is the advertising recovery, and that's it. So we're losing revenues. Carlo last year brought up at the budget time, so I just think we need to finally sit down and...
Advertising is out too.
Okay.
We pay for that.
Okay. We need to come up with some criteria, because we know we're almost 3 years past when we adopted everything. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, the first is, excuse me, please vote. No, I got the, yeah, we already voted. I voted mine.
Okay, now we have. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right, thank you. Item 3 is motion to refer to the zoning commission for the recommendation of the proposed rezoning of a parcel of land from A2 and NC4 to A2. Mr. Sharp. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Dean. Any comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 4 is motion to refer to the zoning commission for the recommendation of proposed rezoning of a parcel from NC1 to NC1 and RO. Mr. Gould.
Yeah, I'm going to move, but I want to...
Can we turn the light on?
I'm going to move in a second, but I'm going to address Gene's comment. Gene, if you look at this motion, it's in a large NC1 area that the residents had asked for, very large, not one particular parcel, but many. And what they found out is that they can't build a house on their property unless we can give them a rural overlay. That's the purpose of doing this. And there's no way to really do it without coming as a motion, or actually the planning department originating that movement. So this is a little different than what you would normally look at.
So what you're telling me is, Marty, that through the comprehensive rezoning, we took residential land and rezoned it NC1?
Yeah, they wanted it NC1, but they didn't realize that they wanted, that they would have problem trying to build a house. Well, now, as they come in, well, they didn't know.
Was
they
the
didn't
houses already
understand.
there?
Well, there are houses there, but now when they're starting to split their land up, you know, the family thing, and they want to cut the land up and start to build a house, they realizing, oh, wait a minute. I said, the easiest way to do this is to do the entire area, so they don't run into that problem.
I don't believe it happened.
Well,
To me, they should be paying the fees, because they weren't these landowners involved with the...
no, I disagree with you. They didn't realize it.
So they weren't aware of it, is what you're telling me?
That's correct. They did not. They asked for something and they didn't know what they were asking for.
Well, so they land up finding out that they made a mistake, and we're going to just waive the fees because they made a mistake.
No, that's
No?
not correct.
That's the way I view from what you said.
Well, that's your opinion.
Okay.
So my motion is to send this to the Planning Commission,
To the zoning commission?
Zoning Commission, that's
Okay.
correct.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Smith. And Mr. Smith, did you have a comment?
I'll hold it to the next item.
Okay. Any other comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, item 5 is motion to refer to the zoning commission for the proposed rezoning of a portion of Johnny Smith Industrial Park from I-1 to I-2, Ward 9, District 14. Mr. Smith.
And as I prepare to make a motion to refer this, I just want to echo the comments of Councilman Gould in relationship to Mr. Bellisario's insistence that we continue to disallow us to be able to have this function. There are no cookie cutter or one-size-fits-all legislation that we can put together that's going to identify and address this question. So if we don't have this opportunity to address them on a case-by-case basis, then we're not really helping those people who really need the help, because a lot of these instances came about as a result of the UDC that we put in place back in 2010, and we missed some of it then. So this gives us an opportunity to go back and correct some of those things. But with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to refer this. 'Cause this is, even though it's not the same as Mr. Gould's, it is another instance of where you need to have this window in which to do this.
Again, I'll repeat what I said before.
Excuse me, 1 second, Mr. Bellisaro. Okay, we have a motion to refer to the zoning commission and a second by Mr. Ortiz. Mr. Bellisario.
I'll just reiterate to TJ and everybody else, is we need to form a work group and set criteria and not just approve everything. Because how many did get through where we weren't questioning it? I understand people don't like that. I understand it and I accept that. But if we're going to do this, then the obvious is we waive all fees on all zoning cases. Just dwell upon that, but I'm just going to ask again, is form a work group and study this and come up with some good criteria. You may, all three of you may have good reasons for it. We can put that in there. But this is the second time I've gone through comprehensive zoning. I did it back in the 80s when I sat on the zoning commission, and we weren't doing things like this. And I understand times have changed. I'm just asking that we've got to set some criteria, and if the criteria includes every possible case, then that's okay with me. But I'd rather have that. That's just where I'm coming from.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith, I'm going to come back to you. Mr. Tanner. No, excuse me, Mr. Gould, and Mr. Tanner, then Mr. Gould, then Mr. Smith.
He had his lights on first.
Mr. Tanner first.
Thank you. Gene, you're chairman of the Finance Committee. What was the amount of the budget for the parish?
103 million.
And I think last year when we had this discussion one time before that we felt like we waived, I think it was like $15,000 the whole year. And if we can't help the people who need help, by waiving these fees, I can tell you when I bring them up here, the people can't afford the fees. So therefore, they wouldn't be able to build their houses or what have you. So, I think that we need to continue to do this. And, if it gets out of hand, it gets out of hand. $15,000 to $20,000 a year is not going to break this parish.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Excuse me,
They're not discussing the motion on the floor.
Thank you, Mr.
Right.
Tanner.
Motion on the floor is a motion to refer. Let's get back to that and quit talking about something else.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with the motion.
Mr. Tanner, thank you for
refer.
your comments. Okay. Call the question. All right, so we have the motion, we have the second. Please vote.
Ms. O'Brien? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before we go into executive session, We did have a gentleman in the audience that wanted to bring something up off the floor.
Yes.
If you'll recall, that's now would be
And
the
that's where I
time
was
to do
going
that.
next.
Okay.
But I appreciate the
I just wanted
the
to make sure we
reminder.
didn't lose him.
No, absolutely. Let me ask council members, does any council member have anything, any item off the floor they'd like to bring up?
I do.
Mr. Tanner? No, no one? Excuse me, Mr. Belisario?
I just want to formalize, I want to establish the work group to look at the criteria, and we get a few council members and someone from the administration to get the ball rolling, and we'll see how long the list is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hand, do you want to, I heard what you were saying. Do you want to address the legal question you brought up?
If the council so chooses, they can listen to the individual, but it would not be appropriate to take a motion from the audience. It doesn't meet the criteria established and all. Yes, so it would be not appropriate. If you want to listen to what the gentleman has to say, that's up to you.
I wouldn't have a problem listening to what the gentleman has to say.
That isn't what, the process should be that he comes up and tells us what he is interested in talking about, and then we should consider either putting a motion on the floor, and it has to be voted on by, has to be a unanimous vote of everybody that's here. And if we choose not to, if one person says no, then we don't, we don't listen to it tonight.
I don't have a problem hearing from the gentleman, counsel.
Mr.
He needs to tell us
Mr.
what he
Bender?
wants to talk
Yes, sir.
about first.
I would just caution the council that this process that you're about to undertake is contrary to your own rules and treads very delicately on state law as it pertains to off-the-floor items. And most specifically, the council does not have a quote-unquote public comment period as part of its agenda. And you are supposed to only discuss those items at a meeting that are on your agenda. So if it is the council's will, you can listen to what the gentleman has to say, but be cautious about making that or having that turn into a regular occurrence at future council meetings, at least without amending your rules first.
Okay, let me ask, of course, Mr. Savannah is our deputy legal counsel, and I'm going to make a statement, and I'll ask Mr. Hand to see if he concurs. Sir, what I'm going to ask, and Terry, tell me if I'm correct, is whatever that you would like to bring forward, okay, if you would talk to any of the council members after the meeting, okay, we can certainly listen to what you want to bring forward potentially at next month's meeting. And if it's sponsored by a council member, okay, then we can put it on the agenda. And that's the point that Mr. Savannah is making and that Mr. Hand is agreeing with, okay? It needs to be sponsored. Even if Ms. Brister wants to put something on our agenda, it has to be sponsored by a council member, okay? So I encourage you to stay after the meeting, our executive session. You can speak with me or any other council member or our attorneys.
I am curious about the item about loan forgiveness then. Was that on your agenda?
The item about loan forgiveness?
It was off,
No.
It was off the floor.
No,
By the president.
no. It was not an item. I gave,
No, that's not what it was about.
yeah. It was just professional courtesy that let our parish president give the good news out via TV into the audience about the $14 million loan forgiveness. But any of us are willing to stay after the meeting and speak with you.
Well, you all received an email from me already on it, so that's okay.
Okay.
I'll wait for a reply.
Okay, what is your name, sir?
Eric Johansson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johansson. All right. All right, I need a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Ortiz. Please vote.
1 second, Mr.
Excuse me.
Wait, 1 second,
Mr.
Mr.
Fowler.
Chairman. I just want to, I've got about 7 students out
Oh,
there,
yeah.
6 or 7 students that hung in to the very end of this thing. I want to get them to just stand up for a second. Would you guys all please stand up and take a bow? We appreciate y'all being here.
Oh, yeah.
We're all here for extra credit, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Falconer, could I give him some advice?
He told me he was going to give y'all an A.
Yeah, guys, A's for everyone. Get the professor. Who made the second to go into executive session? Mr. Artigue, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Do it separate? All right.
Okay.
One.
Item 1, recommendation by Mr. Tanner, take advice of the legal counsel, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Please vote. Trying to get out of here, Marty. Okay, got you. I got you. Mr. Dean has to abstain.
Oh, okay. I'm still missing somebody. Sorry, the computer is like taking forever. Gentleman and lady, did someone not vote?
Other than Mr. Dean?
Mr. Gould.
Okay.
Mr. Gould! Oh, no.
He's watching a football game or something.
Motion passes 13 yeas, 1 abstention.
All right, need a motion on number 2. Motion by Mr. Gould to accept our attorney's recommendation, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any questions?
That's okay.
No. He's changing his vote to yes, Mr. Dean? On the first one, yes?
Did you repeal your abstention?
You're a yes on the first one, Mr. Dean? Yes on the first one. Please vote.
Mr. Bender, just go ahead and make the rules up as you desire, you know.
Oh, it's better than letting you do it.
Mr. Belisario.
We got it.